Here are some of the biggest movie mistakes you've never noticed. Part 1. In the movie Braveheart, there's lots of mistakes I bet you haven't noticed before. First off, when they're running into battle, their tools that are supposed to be made of steel wobbles like rubber. Next up, they're all on horses, but why don't they use this car in the background? I don't think that was supposed to be there. Later on, you can see this guy in the background with a hat from the future. What's he doing back in these times? In the movie Gladiator, there are tons of funny mistakes you haven't noticed. In the movie Gladiator, you can see Maximus showing off to the crowd, and in the crowd is a guy with a camera. He's in the wrong time. Later on, in the Colosseum, you can see people have bottled water back in the Roman times. Interesting. Back in the day, Roman fighting was super gruesome, but if you look closely, the sword goes through his armpit, not even through him. And later on, the same thing right here, under his armpit. Like, what? In the movie Hercules, there's a huge spatial difference problem that I'm surprised didn't get caught. In the movie Hercules, when Hercules is in the underworld, he stands on this cliff and looks down at all the souls, and he spots Meg. But he reaches down and he grabs her, and he's able to reach the water while he's kneeling. But a couple moments later, it zooms out and you see that he's standing on a cliff nowhere near the water. And then a couple moments later again, he jumps, and look how freaking high he is. He just dove. Did you see how high he was? How could he have possibly kneeled and touched the water if he was that high from the water? How does a mistake like this not get caught? I don't get it. In the movie Iron Man 2, there are two things you've never noticed before. In the scene where Natasha takes down Happy, if you look really closely at her face when she takes him down, she becomes a whole different person. Didn't think that was supposed to happen. In a scene later on in the movie, Iron Man is looking into his reflection, but his reflection puts his finger in his mouth before he actually does. Look closely. In James Bond, Quantum of Solace, there's one thing in the background you might have never seen before. When James Bond is on his phone, in the background, there's one guy sweeping, but the broom is literally 2 feet off of the ground. What is he sweeping? In the movie Gladiator, there's one mistake you probably haven't noticed before. When Maximus takes over a chariot and knocks over another chariot, you can see one thing that's not supposed to be shown. Right here, you see an air tank, which I can guarantee you wasn't back in the Roman times. In the movie Star Wars, Attack of the Clones, there's one very funny mistake that I don't know how it made it to the final movie. When one of the main characters, Jango Fett, is getting in his spaceship, you can see him actually hit his head on the closing door. Here it is zoomed up. Boom, hits him right on the head. In Transformers Age of Extinction, there's one mistake that blows my mind. As the main character Mark Wahlberg comes up trying to help Optimus Prime fight Megatron, this wall next to him blows up. But if you look really closely, there's a person that wasn't there before. Right here, there's no one. But then all of a sudden, this guy appears out of nowhere. This random man only appears when Megatron shoots the wall next to him and then just disappears again. How did this get past editing? Next up, in the movie The Last Samurai, there's one mistake that's super funny. When the main character Tom Cruise is getting off of his horse, if you look really closely, the horse actually kicks one of the extras right in the balls. Ouch. First up, in Batman The Dark Knight Rises, we have a couple things that I'm surprised made it to the full movie. In one scene where Batman is trying to track down Catwoman, an article shows up, but the word heist is spelled wrong. How did that get through editing? Later on in the movie, we have one scene that shows Batman is so good at fighting, he doesn't even need to hit people to knock them down. Just look at this. In the background of this scene right here, you can see that there's one guy way off in the background, just falls over with Batman being like 5 feet away from him. And later on, this guy can shoot Batman, but all of a sudden just falls back as well. The guy just, boom, like, Batman's over here. What are you doing, bro? Why are you falling over? Next up, we have Star Wars. In the last movie of the first trilogy, there's one very funny scene that I bet you haven't noticed before. When the main character kicks this guy in the face, he misses the guy's face by about 4 feet. In the movie The Bourne Identity, there's one super funny mistake you probably haven't noticed. There's one scene here that Jason apparently vanishes. So when he's walking off the scene right here, this car passes by and it's supposed to look like he disappeared, but you can literally see him running behind it. You see his legs and his top of his head. Next up, we have Die Hard 2. There's one mistake that I'm surprised got past the editing team. So there's a scene where there's 3 guys sitting down at a table, and this black guy gets up to leave, but when he goes to pick up the thing off the ground, his hand magically becomes white. Here it is again, slowed down. So the black guy bends down and his hand is white. Next up, we have The Dark Knight. There's one mistake you might not have noticed yet. So in the scene when Batman is interrogating the Joker, he throws him up against this wall right here. A camera is seen. I don't think that was supposed to be there. In the movie Bad Boys, there's one huge mistake I'm surprised got into the full movie. In one of the fighting scenes, you can clearly see a cameraman, and there's not even a slight attempt to disguise it. There he is, right there. You can clearly see him. Somehow this wasn't picked up by the director or the editing team, and that made it into the full movie. How? Next up, we have Django Unchained, and the mistake in this movie is actually super cool. In this scene right here, Leonardo DiCaprio smashes his hand on the dinner table. You can see him do it right there. Well, when he did that, he accidentally crushed a small stemmed glass with his palm and really began to bleed. He ignored it, stayed in character, and continued with the scene. The director, Quentin Tarantino, was so impressed by this that he used it in the final movie. You can literally see him look at his hand, take out a piece of glass, and continue the scene. Even in animated movies, mistakes can be made. Here in Frozen, right here when Elsa flips her hair literally goes through her arm. Here it is slowed down. Right here when Elsa flips her hair, it goes right through her arm. Pretty cool.